Hey there. All right, so now that we've reviewed how to solve three-step equations, which was situations where you might have to combine like terms first and then solve the two steps, or you might need to distribute and then you have a two-step equation left after that. What we're going to do now, finally, in this video is we're going to put this all together now, okay? So when we're looking at the I can statement for today, I can simplify by distributing and then combining like terms. You can see that we're now finally putting the two topics together. Now, before we do anything with these examples, I wanted to remind you guys back in Unit 3, we talked about simplifying expressions and we had this acronym PEMDAS. And you probably remember that this is parentheses, exponents, multiplication, then division, and then addition or subtraction. And you might remember also that the multiplication and division, it's whichever comes first from left to right. Same thing here with adding and subtracting. So we're actually going to follow PEMDAS with this because you can see we're still simplifying here. So our first step, we're going to look at the parentheses, but what we're going to notice here, y'all, is that there's nothing to do inside these parentheses with this negative 5x. There's nothing to do inside these parentheses with the 2 plus the x. What I mean by there's nothing to do inside the parentheses, if we saw something with like a 2 plus maybe like a 5 squared, this is something to do inside parentheses where you've got 25 plus 2, and then you tell me that that's a 27. So that's what I mean when there is something to do inside the parentheses, and then here you can see for these there's nothing. So that's why for all of these examples, like if you look at all of them inside the parentheses, there's nothing we can do with any of them. Like here, there's nothing I can do with the 9w and the 3. I can't combine those. I can't do anything here. I can't do anything with that. So for all of these, we don't really need to look at these parentheses and all the examples and think, okay, there's something with me to do there. What we're going to notice with the parentheses is they're actually this step here in green for multiplication. And multiplication, as you can see, happens before adding and subtracting. So that's why we're going to distribute before we combine like terms. So when I look at this example, when I look at the parentheses right here, there's nothing on the outside, but here there is. And so that's why I'm going to catch that this is my very first step. I'm going to distribute a 6 to the 2 and get a 12, and then a 6 to the x and get 6x. So that's me taking care of the multiplication step right there. And now we're just going to bring down the rest of what we see here. This was a negative 6x. And I think at this point, you guys are good with the adding a negative 5x is the same thing as just minus 5x. So we've got minus 5x here. And this right here was a positive 12. So we're going to put a plus sign right there for plus 12. Now at this point, since we've taken care of the multiplication, the distributive step, what we're ready to do is now the adding and subtracting or the combining like terms. So when we're combining like terms for this one, I've got these negative 6x's. And you might realize also that they're going to cancel out with these positive 6x's. So negative 6x actually cancels out with positive 6x. And right here, we're left with the simplified expression. So negative 5x plus 12 would be the final answer for this one. All right. So again, all we're looking at here is simplifying. I know that in the previous video, we covered how to solve the three-step equations. And you can realize here that in this red step, that was a simplifying thing first, and then we applied it to solving. So if you just skip down real quick to the bottom part of the page, you'll see that eventually we're going to apply this skill of simplifying first to then being able to solve the equation. But for right now, up here, we're just practicing how to distribute and then combine like terms, and then we'll apply that down here to go on and solve the equation. All right, so for this next one here, the 7 being next to the a plus 2, this we need to distribute. And so this is going to be a 7a plus 14. And that's a mistake a lot of you guys were making early on in the unit. You were just putting a plus 2 here. Remember, it's 7a and then the 7 times the 2, which is the 14. And now I'm just going to write down the rest of it. We have the minus 6a, and then the minus 2, and then the minus 3b. All right, we've got some terms here that we can combine. So we've got the 7a's, and we can take away 6a's. All right, so 7a's take away 6a's would just be 1a, so I'm just going to write a. Now there's nothing here with this minus 3b. There's no other b's, so I'm just going to put minus 3b. And I do have some constants here. So I've got a 14, and now I'm going to take away 2. And 14 minus 2 is 12, and since it's a positive 12, I'm going to put a plus 12. So a minus 3b plus 12 would be what this thing simplifies to. All right, now here we've got an example with a fraction, and off to the side you can see that I wrote the 1/3 times the 3, because when we distribute that here, I just wrote the math off to the side. And so friendly reminder that you could do 3 times 1, which is 3, and now divided by 3 is just 1, so I'll put like a -1. Also, you could do 3 divided by 3, which is 1, times 1. The reason I'm putting a minus is because of this thing right here. So this is going to be a -1p. And I'm going to put the 1 for right now just because I think like when it's in the final answer, I can go ahead and not put it. But when we're going to have some math to do, it might be easier to see it here. So this is a -1p. And then here we have a negative times a positive. So this is going to be a negative answer. And when we do a third of the 9, that's just basically the same thing as 9 divided by 3. So 9 divided by 3 is 3. All right, so we have taken care of the distributive step. And now I'm just going to bring down this -3p. So we distribute first, and now we're ready to combine like terms. And right here, I think you guys can see that if we have 3 negatives and 1 more negative, that's 4 negative with p. And then -3 is the constant, and that's the final answer. All right, we are now looking at the fourth example here. And when I look inside the parentheses, again, there's nothing to do with the 9w and the 3. So now when I'm following PEMDAS, I'm going to be multiplying, which is essentially distributing here. So I'm going to do the 2/3 of 9w. And over here, I've got the 2/3 of 9. And for me, again, I don't think it makes sense to do 18 and then have to think of 18 divided by 3. I'd rather just make 9 smaller and do 9 divided by 3, which is 3. And 3 times 2 would be the 6. So this is going to be a 6w. And then when we do 2/3 of 3, we got 3 divided by 3 is 1 times 2. So that's going to be a +2. So we've distributed. And now let's just bring down the other two terms. All right, cool. Now we're going to combine the like terms. So there's 6 w's, and we're going to take away 3 w's. All right, so 6 of the w's take away 3 w's is 3 w's, and it's positive, but it's the first term, so I don't have to write the plus sign. And then right here, 2 plus 4 is 6, and since it's positive, we're going to have a positive constant, and that's the final answer for that one, 3w plus 6. All right, just a couple more examples, and then we're going to apply it to how to solve the equations, okay? All right, now with this one, which you'll notice is different, is I'm kicking it up a notch because now I've got a set of parentheses here and here. So there are times when you're going to have to distribute. I'm going to distribute the 7 here in green, and then I'm also going to distribute the 6 here in red, okay? So if I distribute the 7 first, it's 7 sets of 5n minus 8. So this is going to be 35n, and this is going to be a minus 56. All right, now over here in red, I've got 6 sets of 4 plus 6n. So 6 sets of 4 would be a 24. And then 6 sets of 6n would be a 36n. So again, you're just multiplying 6 times 4, and then 6 times the 6 here is 36. All right, so we had to distribute, but we just had to distribute twice in this example. And now we're still ready to combine like terms. We've got 35 n's, and we're going to add 36 to that. And if you feel like you need to use a calculator, that's fine. Some of you are good with 35 and 35 being 70, and we'll just make one more than that. But in the spirit of just seeing it in the calculator, here we go. And so that's a 71. So this is going to be 71n. And now again, if you want to use the calculator for this part, the -56 plus 24, that's totally fine. You got 56 and just make it negative. And now we're going to do plus 24. So -56 plus 24. And that's a -32. And since it's a -32, I'm going to put -32 in my answer. And we're done. 71n minus 32. And this looks pretty intimidating, I think, at the beginning of the video, but now I think you guys realize it's not all bad. This is as tough as it's going to get, okay? So we're going to distribute here. Let's take care of this part first. We've got a -9 times 1 is -9. Now this -9 times this -10n, since negative times negative is positive, I'm going to go ahead and put a plus. And 9 times 10 would be a 90, and then n. So that takes care of that part. Now let's deal with this fraction, okay? Now it is a negative, So it's going to be a negative 3/4 times this, and a negative times a positive is going to be a negative answer, so I'm going to go ahead and put a minus sign. Now off to the side, I've got the 3/4 and then the 4, so we can focus on this math right here. 3 times 4 is 12, and then that divided by 4 is 3 again. So this would be a minus 3n. Or you could think of it as 4 divided by 4, which is 1, times 3. Either way, there we go. And now we've got this 3/4 again times the 12. You can just write that off to the side. And again, it doesn't make sense to me to make it larger, so I'd just rather go ahead and do 12 divided by 4, which is 3, and then that 3 times 3 is 9. And again, because it's a negative times a positive, I know it's supposed to be a negative 9. And like always, we're ready to combine like terms. So we've got 90 n's, and we're going to take away 3 of them. 90n minus 3n is going to be 87n. And here you have a negative 9 minus 9. All right, so here's how that problem looks down here, negative 9 minus 9. And again, you're just combining like terms here. This is going to be a minus 18. Careful not to think that's 0. And if you want to see it in the calculator, we have a 9 that's negative, and now I'm just simply going to minus 9. And there's the negative 18. You can see it's right there in the calculator. That models the green thing. And we have simplified that problem. All right. So all we focused on this part of the video was just simply how to distribute and how to identify where that is, and then how to combine like terms after that. We reviewed here that it's always still in alphabetical order. The constant always comes last. And friendly reminder that when you're multiplying, if the answer is a negative answer, that's a minus sign in the problem. And if when you multiply, it's a positive answer, there's a plus sign in the answer. Like right here when we did this answer, we got a negative 32, so that's why this was a minus 32. But up here, when you have 2 plus 4, it's a positive 6, so that's why there's a plus 6. All right? Now down here, what we're going to do, if you need to pause the video and take a quick break, that's okay. But all we're going to do now is simply apply those steps. We're going to distribute first, then we're going to combine like terms, and then we're going to have a 2-step equation left over like we did in the last video. All right, so in this one right here, when I look at this, I see parentheses, and so I'm going to distribute my 5 to these 2 terms. 5 times 2x is going to be a 10x, and then 5 times negative 11 is negative 55. Now I'm just going to bring everything down after that. So I took care of the first step, I distributed. Now I'm going to combine like terms, and so here I'm going to box them in blue. I've got a positive 10x, and with my 3x is the plus sign, so that's going to be adding, and so I get a 13x. There's nothing with this negative 55, so I'm just going to bring that down. There's no other constants. So I've taken care of the combining like terms. We did both of these steps. And now we have a 2-step equation remaining, and we'll need to just add or subtract to get rid of the constant, and then multiplying or dividing, but here we're going to have a coefficient, so we'll divide. All right, so let's take care of this thing. We're going to add 55 on both sides. This cancels out over here, and I'm going to bring down my 13x. And right here, the negative 3 plus 55, again, if you want to see that in the calculator, there's your negative 3 plus 55, and that's a 52. And now you might realize it's okay to think of it as 55 minus 3. So 55 minus 3 is 52. All right, and now when I do the 52 divided by the 13, we get a 4. So we're going to divide both sides by the 13. The 13s cancel out, and x is all by itself, and we get x equals 4. All right. So again, this video is just finally putting everything together. We spent some time learning how to just combine like terms on its own. We spent some time talking about distributing on its own. And I think you guys remember PEMDAS pretty well. And so I think it makes sense to you that we should be multiplying before we're combining like terms, which is the adding or subtracting of the constants. All right, so let's take a look at this one. Now this is one where we have parentheses over here and then again over here. So we're going to kind of treat it as 2 separate distributive things. We're going to distribute a 3 here in purple, and then we're going to distribute a negative 2 in red. Okay? So let's take care of the first part in purple. We've got 3 times 1 is 3. And then 3 plus a 4x is 12x. All right, cool. Now in red, a negative 2 times 5x is a negative 10x. And a negative 2 times a negative 3 is actually plus 6. And then we've got that that's going to be equal to a 25. So we took care again of our first step. We have distributed, even though we had to do it twice. All right, and now we're looking at step 2. We're combining like terms. So we've got the 3 and the 6. That's going to be a plus 9. And then here we have 12x's. That's positive. And 12 minus 10 is 2. So this is going to be a 2x plus 9 equals 25. All right, we took care of the combining like terms, and now we just have a two-step equation that we have left to solve. So let's get rid of the constant. Bring down the 2x. And here, 25 minus 9 is a 16. And now we'll divide by the coefficient. 16 divided by 2 is 8. All right. So this is the beginning part of today's video. It kind of walked you through some practice examples and then how we're about to apply it. And now you guys are getting ready to watch another video where I just walk you through all the different types of scenarios that you could possibly see where you'd have to distribute, then combine, and then have your two-step equation left over. That concludes page 9 video. Thank you for watching.